Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. For your pleasure today, I'm playing something rather relaxing, the ASRAD-R, a new Swedish SPAA of battle rating 10.0, and it is the 4th rank 7 Swedish vehicle in the game. So, its predecessor is the LV KV9040C, and the two vehicles couldn't be different. It's a bit more like the predecessor, the LVR-BV 701, the Luftvärnsrobotbandwagen 701. I hope I pronounced that right. And the question is this thing worth researching, or is it just something that you could skip? Well, there are two aspects to it. A yes and a no aspect. The yes aspect is it worked. It did the job, and I had enough to shoot at while I was playing it. Was it because of the Operation Winter, or was it because of the Battle Pass, the patch in general, maybe what the Swedes fight overall in terms of other nations? It depends. But the radar worked, the missiles worked, and when they hit, and they hit like 95% of the time, they were one-shots. 95% of the time. So 9 out of 10 missiles resulted in a kill. However, you only have 8 missiles. And that's a bit of a problem, because when I say that I had enough to shoot, that also means sometimes I ran out of missiles, and to get them back is a bit of a problem, because this thing is, unsurprisingly, rather fragile when sitting in a cap. Artillery strikes, tanks that want to cap, and many other things that threaten you are then leaving you a rather short life. But what is this thing? What can it do? Well, aside from being rather sneaky and rather small, it is also very thinly protected. Aluminium alloy of 44 millimeters. If this guy would shoot me, I'd have a problem. However, then there is also your mobility and maneuverability and the gun handling, which has its fair share of limits, but also possibilities. Horsepower to ton ratio is just under 20 for this 11.2 ton tank. A 250 horsepower strong engine is sufficient to propel it to a top speed of 64 kilometers per hour forward and up to 15 backwards, which leaves no things to be desired for a second line unit. Then we have also the missiles, the weapon systems. Well, you have no machine gun, you have no cannon, such as the American ADATs or the Soviet Tunguska, for example, and so you only have your missiles. However, aside from, let's say, some other SAM systems, you have some limited anti-tank capabilities as well, because the RB-70 Mark II SAM, which is, by the way, the Tier 2 upgrade on the predecessor, the LVRBV 701, is also equipped with not just a proximity fuse high explosive warhead, it is rather a proximity fuse heat warhead. So it has a 4 kilogram heavy bursting charge that produces a copper beam penetration value of 200 millimeters, and that at any distance and versus 60 degrees angles of attack, it's half that, so that indicates a heat warhead gameplay wise. 580 meters per second maximum speed on the trajectory with a firing range of 7 kilometers. That already deals with the majority of threats, but obviously people want to upgrade, and then you get the Tier 2 SAM, the Bolide. Now, you have 700 meters per second maximum speed on the trajectory and 9 kilometers of firing range, so it's definitely an improvement, but the warhead stays the same, so still 200 millimeters of penetration for a heat warhead that has 4 kilograms of bursting charge. However, that's not all for this vehicle. It is a little bit like a Swiss knife. It has a bit of everything, but it's not a true tool for a specific job, if you know what I'm talking about. So there are better SAM systems with further range, heavier warheads, more SAMs, whatever. And there are also SAM systems that have better anti-tank capabilities. However, and this was something that I suggested after the first time I got my hands on the Japanese Type 93 SPA, was that such SAM systems should get the ability to scout, which is very useful. Together with an artillery strike and the smokes, you at least can move around and be of use for your team, aside from just, you know, sniping things out of the sky, which it does very well, I have to say. So I think when you are not busy shooting stuff, you can look around, and as you can see, there is even thermal imaging that you have for your gunner, and it's not the best quality. You don't have it for your commander, so it's a bit of a drawback, but not too dramatic. So what you have is not a lot of armor. What you have is not a lot of crazy speed, but everything is in the realms of usable. Now the question is, as I said in the beginning, or as I asked in the beginning, is this thing worth it? And the answer is, yeah, kind of no. It's not as bad as the Type 93, the Japanese high-tier SAM system, if you will. But if you have already more or less the same capabilities with the LVRB V701, you know, 2 vehicles prior, and the LVKV 9040C has definitively better anti-tank capabilities, and also radar, proximity fuse, 40mm high explosive shells, etc. To invest another 390,000 RP is not really mandatory, and to invest another $1 million to purchase it, to put it into crew, another $1 million for the expert qualification, you know, it's stretching really. I come to the limits trying to sell this to you. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm not saying it's useless. It does the job when you have it, but do you really need it? That's the question that I asked myself, and the answer is, thinking about it, not really. But for a vehicle that does the job, that does everything that you ask from it, I cannot really also say that it's bad. I mean, when I think about back the experience in the Type 93, the Japanese SPA, that is in a even worse situation at 9.7, that has, where the missiles didn't work when I played it, I just couldn't really justify it. One thing that I want to point out is I suggested the implementation of scouting ability because, you know, it's a simple implementation. It makes sense. It gives a bit of a certain buff to the vehicle without being game breaking, so to speak, and Gaijin did that. So here we are with a vehicle that leaves not really anything left to be desired from a historical perspective with the boosts gameplay wise. I have fun sniping so much stuff, and normally top tier is quite stressful. It's quite infuriating when the server has a hamster heart attack when you're about to pull the trigger, the shot doesn't go off, you know, all the things. But in this thing, I had a good time at top tier. Flying things, not so much. And this is all that I wanted from the vehicle, and it delivered. So, something nice and relaxing for a change. I hope you liked it. If so, please give the video a like with it, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies, on the waves, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.